So what qualities go to make a good Mahayana Buddhist? Hi everyone, I'm no Buddhist. I'm somebody that studied Buddhism, and if you're watching this as a Buddhist, you may find an answer that you wouldn't necessarily agree with. All I would say in my defense is there are many types of Buddhism and many paths that can follow. And what I'm talking about this morning comes from the Mahayana tradition, which you'll find in places like Tibet and China, and not all Mahayana Buddhists would necessarily agree on the right path. But what I'm going to show to you is perhaps the single most common approach to enlightenment. And we would call that Bodhicitta. Now, if you do religious studies at GCSE and you do Buddhism, you may be aware there is something called the 6 moral perfections, the 6 perfections, which are known as the 6 paramitas or bodhisattva qualities. And to seek to develop bodhisattva qualities is to seek enlightenment in a way that each of us can do, because we can all reach and aspire to our Buddha nature. In order to do that, we have to develop bodhicitta. Now, bodhi means enlightenment, and it's the idea that our minds can become awakened to enlightenment. And there's 2 important messages that come from this. The first is the way you do that. And the way you do that is through compassion, through thinking positive and open thoughts towards others. And the second key message is this. In Mahayana thought, to seek unhappiness is to think of yourself. When you think of yourself, when you try to develop what you yourself want, that's the path to unhappiness, because selfish thoughts are the things that pull you down. Because as you think of self, that's what causes suffering. That's a fundamental point within Buddhism, which you will have picked up. But as you develop and as you go through Buddhism, there is a sense that the way to seek happiness is through seeking happiness for others. And this is the path to enlightenment. This is what we would think of as bodhicitta, because in bodhicitta what you're trying to do is you're trying to have an awareness to the living world around you. To seek happiness for others is to move along that path towards enlightenment, to develop that Buddha nature. And here's the key thing, because that doesn't just mean for other people, of course. In Buddhist thought, that's for all sentient beings, all living things, and the planet around us. Why is our planet in such a mess? Many Buddhists would say, and it's because we have failed to put the planet as a priority. And when we think of that, we think of something that we might call dependent arising, paticcasamuppada, the idea that everything we do has a knock-on, has a connection with everything else. And as we look at our world and we look at deforestation, or we look at global warming, or we look at animal species going extinct, we might very well say that that has come about because we do not put them as a priority. We put ourselves and what we ourselves want as a priority. And by doing that, we are being selfish and we are creating unhappiness. And that unhappiness is the source of all the problems in the world. And the only way we can tackle that, to move on, is to reach out and develop, remember this word, bodhicitta, this idea of reaching out with compassion to those around us. So how do we do that? Well, we do that through showing compassion to living things, through trying to understand their needs and putting them as a priority. And to do that effectively, we have to be able to reach out away from our own selfish needs. These paramitas, these bodhisattva qualities, are something that in Mahayana thought we can all do, we can all achieve. So if you ever had a question posed to you, which is the most important aspect of Buddhism, the answer is absolutely compassion in Mahayana thought. That you should do anything which reaches out in compassion. Now, which of the Four Noble Truths, which of the 3 marks, that's for you to interpret and to think of. But for me, that's the heart of Buddhist thinking. I hope you found that helpful. If I've converted you to Buddhism, well, so much the better. But don't worry if not. Like the channel. Don't forget to write comments at the bottom. It helps me to think about what to talk about and to present for you. In the meantime, take care. Thanks ever so much. Bye-bye.